Yeah, hi there, it's Willie D. A whole lot of people messaged in about tuning up their bikes, and especially during the lockdown. So I thought I'd give some really quick tips on how to tune your bike. And without all the elaborate, stands and everything, you're at home, you have your bike and you have a floor, that's it. And a couple of basic tools. So let's get to it. Yeah, well, run through your gears, make sure they're all working. And they're changing okay. Number one, check all your gears. Check your brakes. Are they working? Are they good? Are all your gears switching just by pedaling up and down here and switching the gears? Alright? Now, we'll just show you some quick adjustments. I'm going to flip the bike upside down for it. That's how I repair things without a bike shop. That gives you a great platform because now you can work on your bike. You can also switch your gears this way around if you get used to it. You go down and click them and you can see what's going on, right? Okay, so to basic maintenance, right? Okay, let's do number one. Brakes. The brake pads should be lined up to the rim. The wheels should move freely without rubbing, right? So that's simple, that's two. And you can actually see if your wheel has a little bit of a wobble or not here. That's just adjusting the spokes, okay? You just adjust the spokes. If it's pulling to this side, you pull the wheel to that side with those spokes that are going across. Not the ones coming this way, the ones across that way. You pull it over on that area only. All right, but anyway, say you're adjusted. You want to leave some space between the rim and the blocks for freewheeling. And also you don't want to make your front brake really tight so you go over the top of the handlebars when you brake. Okay, there's the simple part. That's number one. That's the front brake. The back brake, same thing, not rubbing, etc., and adjusting. The main adjustment for these is the wire coming down, whether you should tighten it or not. Okay, I'll show you that with the bike right way up for a sec. On all bikes there's a screw holding the cable, whether it's a vintage or a modern bike, right? Now what you want to do here is, if it's a way too loose, you tighten this to a reasonable amount till it's nearly like 1/8 of an inch or a little bit less out. So this is your large adjustment, so if it's a way out, which usually doesn't happen too much. And then, if we pan up here to the handlebar, where my hand is, of course my camera doesn't want to go there yet. There we go. Here on the handlebar is the fine adjustment. You loosen this nut and you turn it out, reverse, pulls the brakes together more, in, screwing in, opens them up. Now you want to just adjust this till you feel you're really happy, and your wheel, when you push it a little forward and you turn it, that it free spins and doesn't rub. And you don't want your brakes so hard that your bike jumps off the ground in the back when you pull the lever, because you don't want to go over your handlebars really. The back is the same adjustment. Same thing again, cable, the tightener for the cable, and then the adjustment is on the handlebar in the same situation. Okay, so if you think vintage bikes are any different, they're not really that much. Here's the block and it's on the running on the silver rim. This is a 1970 Apollo. There's the fine adjustment screw for the brakes. Now this has two. You adjust this for the larger in and out, and then you have an adjustment here, and then see on the newer brakes and the older brakes it didn't have this. There's an adjustment up here, which I'll show on this handle here, and that's a little bit because this bike may have had older brake calipers in the olden days, and they've been exchanged for these solid aluminum ones. I most likely did that. And so you have your cable as the main adjustment to get your calipers in fairly close. Then you have this adjustment for fine tuning. And then when you're biking, you want to be able to adjust it actually if you have a little bit of a thing up here. Same thing, we'll spin the wheel, make sure it's free spinning. So there you go. Mountain bike, racing bike, vintage or modern. Doesn't make any difference. So often, you know, I come up and I give this bike a quick spray. I've got WD-40 here around the gears and that. Make sure that it clicks okay. Especially in these little things here, they get dirt in them in the chain rail mover, whatever they call it, GEC. Great technical stuff here. So there you go. I usually do that and I spray this here a bit so that it adjusts well. So the chain, the linkage here and this linkage in here, I oil it. Now you can get 3-in-1 oil and dab it down the end of your cables on the where they go into the coax cables so that they don't rust inside. So that's a handy thing. You can do that on the brakes a little bit too. But I usually spray it like this. If it's running okay, there's an old rule, if everything's running fine, don't try to fix it, just oil it and let's go. And WD-40 or an oil that's a little thinner is really good to use. Don't use the thicker oil like car oil, that's too thick for a bike. Anyway, there isn't much else to do on the bikes except check the gears. And I'm just going to show you where you adjust those. Now they're a little different on some, but not much. It's still the same as the old ones. Yeah, so the bike's upside down. And if you look in here, there's adjustment screws. And there for this unit, when it goes in, the one stops it, and when it comes out, the other stops it. So if your chain skips off this end, you want to adjust the one. And if the chain goes off into this, you have to adjust the other. These are the main two adjustments for all gear bikes. And I'll show you that on the old-fashioned one as well. But basically that's it. There isn't really that much to change. It's usually the skip off the end of the lowest and the highest gear that causes problems. Now, when you backpedal, if this thing does a skip like that when you're backpedaling, you need to oil your chain and your unit in here. It just got dirty. So if you backpedal and does a skipping, it means the chain's tightening or this is getting a little dirty, right? And it's pulling it a little. So when you're biking on here, like with the chain, just oil it when you go home. Everyone knows the saddle adjustment screws here. This has a quick release one. Some of them have a single bolt, but most of the bicycles from the 70s on have a quick release to move your saddle up and down. No big deal. I'm sure you all can do that. You want to adjust your steering wheel, you unloosen these two here. Now some of them, in the older ones, you bring the thread up and it sticks up like this. Get a wood and you just tap on top of the wood, the bolt down, and it loosens it out, and you can rise up or down the handlebar and then retighten. And with these you have to tighten these two screws. The older ones it's just the top screw. It's a cone shape that pulls in. So basically you take the top screw out, knock it down, loosens, adjust, and then screw it tight again. So there you go. There's another adjustment. No biggie. Now this derailment here has an adjustment screw on both sides as well for the up and down on both sides. Make sure this bracket is tight, that it's not loosening out. Now if the adjustments don't work, you have to readjust the bracket that's holding it to the bar so that it's in the right placing, straight in line, and then you readjust here. And that's all there is to it. How simple is that? Much more you have to do to your bike. The wheels are greased. I spray mine sometimes, the cogs and that, but the wheels are greased in the bearings. And there's videos on how to change your ball bearings already up, so you can look at those if you want. Yeah, I was talking about oiling earlier on, like some of the things. You know, your brake line goes all the way down. What you do is you just pull the brake, hold the cable, and out she comes when you let go if you pull it. So, right, it's pull the cable, pull back with the, put a dab of oil in here, like very fine oil, like at WD-40 or one of those other lubricants, and it'll water down in here and it'll stop the rust. Simple trick. Okay, the adjustment on this one, if you pull the brake and you pull this out, it doesn't come quite out. You'd have to screw this all the way in and then oil it, right? So that's all that there is to do there. So when you pull it, this is so tight that it doesn't, you can't get in front of the nozzle there. The other way to do it is to spray up in here and let the oil go through, or turn the bike upside down. Turn the bike upside down and spray into the units below here. I'm trying to find them here. See there? And turn the bike upside down and spray in here and leave it sit for a while and it'll drip down as well. So this is the old-fashioned derailleur here. So if you want it, if it's out of line, if this is pushed in or out, this bracket might be loose, so you just loosen this, straighten it and tighten it. There's the two adjustment screws on this one. And there's the cable coming in, right? And you know, you can adjust it so that it's in and out of it so it doesn't fly off the cogs. That's all they're there for. It's the same as the derailleur type, right? So if your cable's loose, you can tighten it on the cable screw and then adjust it. Yeah, I moved the gear shifters up here because I put a higher handlebar on this racing bike because I have a bad back. But these are the gear shifters. Now once these are installed and put in a position, they don't really, just like the newer models, you don't really have to do anything to them. If something breaks, and we usually have to buy another shifter. So maybe a little oil now and then, but you know, they're really very maintenance free. So here's the screw to the steering wheel on the vintage bike. It screws up and sticks up. You take a piece of wood and a hammer and just tap it. The reason for the wood is not to damage it. And it drops the cone down that's inside, and the handlebar's loose for adjusting up and down. Now if you're biking along, your handlebars start moving a little, all you got to do is tighten this, or tighten the collar if it's a more modern mountain bike style one. There isn't really much to the bikes in mechanics, so I think I've touched the base of everything. So basically, that's how you repair your bike, more or less. So there you go. That's kind of like general maintenance on your bike. I was going to do this in lockdown, but I'm doing it just after for people so that they know. You know, if their bike is running fine and it's all smooth, give it a good oiling everywhere, and then take her out for a spin later on, and don't mess around with adjustments when it's not needed. Only when you have a problem start adjusting and correcting. So leave it be. Check some of the small things like your brakes and that they're set right. Don't put your front brakes too hard on so that you shoot over the handlebars. Back brake can be fairly hard for braking because it'll just skid. Okay. Basically, I oil my chain a lot, and my gear shifter gets grit in it and sticks, and you can feel the chain when I backpedal. Sometimes you can feel the derailleur making a kind of a slack in the chain. So I oil that now and then. It's an old-fashioned one. I like my old-fashioned bike, but the gear change is not great. I hope this helped you with your maintenance though. And you know, it's not very difficult to do it, you know. To do the basic maintenance on a bike, it's pretty straightforward. So, you know, go at it, enjoy yourself, and have a great bike ride. Cheers. My name is Willie D.